Have you ever felt like your kindness is some kind of magnet for the wrong people? It's this really confusing and honestly pretty painful experience. Well, today we're going to explore a concept that might just explain everything. We're diving into the open door paradox.
So let's start with the big question. Why is it that the most caring, the most empathetic, the most emotionally generous people out there seem to find themselves again and again in relationships that just leave them feeling totally wiped out? It's a question so many of us have asked.
Now, it is so easy to just write this off as a string of bad luck. But what if I told you it's not random at all? The research suggests something much deeper is going on. It's not bad luck, it's a predictable, almost magnetic, psychological match. And, just understanding that match is the very first step to breaking the cycle for good.
Okay, so to really get what this match is all about, we have to bust a huge myth about who manipulators are actually going after. What are they really looking for?
So here's the classic misconception, right? That manipulators prey on the weak. But the psychological reality is, well, it's the exact opposite. They don't want someone who is weak. They actually want someone who is strong, but in a very specific way. They target the emotionally generous, people with this deep well of empathy, this willingness to always see the good in others. They are looking for a resource, not a victim.
And it's fascinating when you look at the specifics of what they're hunting for. They're drawn to high emotional intelligence because, frankly, they need someone sophisticated enough to get their subtle cues and manage their messy emotions for them. They're looking for someone who automatically gives the benefit of the doubt, someone who explains away their bad behavior. You're basically doing their emotional work for them. Your greatest strengths, your empathy, your generosity, are seen by them as unlocked doors.
So that's who they target. But why does it work so well? This brings us to the internal wiring that can make really generous people vulnerable, the people-pleasing mechanism.
Okay, now what's really interesting here is the psychological term for this. You've probably heard of fight, flight, or freeze, but fawning is the fourth survival response. It's when your instinct isn't to run away or fight back, but to appease. You try to stabilize someone else's chaotic emotions so that you can feel safe. It's a survival strategy, and it's one we often learn a long time ago.
Let's just break down how this plays out in real time. First, your finely tuned emotional radar senses danger. You pick up on displeasure, anger, or just instability in someone else. Second, you immediately get to work. You use your empathy to soothe them, to stabilize their mood, to just make things okay. And third, once they're calm, you finally feel safe again. It's this powerful, subconscious loop that can feel totally automatic.
So, knowing this dynamic, how do you spot it early on? This brings us to a really crucial warning sign you can watch out for, a phenomenon we can call intimacy inflation. This quote really just hits the nail on the head. You know that feeling of, wow, I feel like I've known you my whole life after just one conversation? It feels amazing, but it can be a huge red flag. This instant, intense closeness is often a test. A manipulator is seeing just how quickly you'll open your emotional doors and let them right in.
And just giving this a name, intimacy inflation, is so powerful. It's when someone inflates the sense of connection. They share deeply personal stories right away. They make you feel uniquely special, and they push for a level of closeness that really hasn't been earned yet. They're artificially fast-forwarding the bonding process.
Understanding the trap is one thing, but how do you actually avoid it? How do you change the dynamic? This leads us to the solution, and it's all about redefining strength through something called selective presence.
We often confuse emotional strength with endurance, basically how much bad behavior we can put up with or explain away. But what if that's the wrong way to look at it? True strength isn't about having an infinite capacity to absorb negativity. True strength is the conscious, deliberate choice of who gets your energy, your empathy, your presence. It's about choice, not capacity.
So, what's the practical goal here? It's to shift from being an emotional sponge to being an emotional observer. You can notice someone is angry or upset without taking on that anger as your responsibility to fix. You can observe the data, their behavior, without having to absorb the emotional fallout. And look, this isn't about becoming cold, it's about becoming clear. This is the absolute key to setting a boundary.
And that brings us to our final thought. As you go about your week, this is the question to carry with you. It's a shift from a passive reaction to a conscious choice. By deciding who is worthy of your incredible gift of empathy, you don't close the door, you just learn to be the one who decides who gets to walk through it.